Hey everybody, Texas Trucker here at Lance's Performance Shop along the StarMobiles.com. Right before Thanksgiving, I'm out here, had to fill 16 tires with the old rigid inflator, and that brought the battery down to 1 bar on the tool. Showed 2, of course, when I take it off and get it out here. But the main reason I talk about that is because the battery that's always on the tool was totally dead, wouldn't do anything, wouldn't even light up and give you a reading. So I've got that one fully charged, and I'm simply waiting on the other one to charge. It's kind of cold out here, but figured, hey, let's go ahead and clean the shop up some, and we can do that by taking care of a tool haul. So you might hear some clatter in just a few seconds, depends how smooth I am. And we're suave. So, right here, I don't know how many times I bought these things. These are little button cell batteries from Thunderbolt. These are CR2032s. They go in the key fobs that my mom and sister have, and I have never, this factory included, fancy Energizer included, I've never seen a key fob take. I really don't think they're bad. I think the car just throws a fit. It's one of those things they get to notice, and it's just super annoying. The key fob's totally fine. It's just you've got this notification light going off on their dash, and they hate it. So I get called in, and I actually have a lot of these and did not need to buy these. However, this occurred when we were all together, semi out of town. So what's a guy to do? We're at Harbor Freight, and picked those up. And on this particular key fob, you're not going to do that. So no, it can't be simple. Just like a plastic tab or anything, or like a screw-on case. Nope, you got to come in at just the right angle with a long, thin, straight object, and it's not my finger. That's not gonna happen. So I picked up this little gem from Pittsburgh. This is a $1.79 screwdriver. I will tell you, I was an idiot for buying this, but not for the reasons you would think. This actually was perfect. I did this in the seat of the car, literally, and it was the quickest I have ever done it. I don't know if experience has finally come along, but typically I take care of this here, you know, or at their place with my good stuff, and I always have trouble. Like, it's like I said, you can't really see what you need to release. It's just there, but you have to come in. If this is the key fob, just picture this is totally straight up. You have to like come in about this angle, and I mean, I nailed it with this. So I don't know if like 3/16 is the perfect size, or again, I'm just finally getting good at it, but this worked out really well. It was $1.79. We've got the companion, I guess technically, you know, these are like in the bins at the bottoms. You might not even notice them. Let me step over, and this driver, it's actually kind of good looking. For, again, probably roughly the same price. We brought this in a long time ago. It's just here for testing. It's going to be slightly larger, I believe. Yeah, so I guess the quarter, you know, slotted would be roughly the same form factor as this Phillips number 2, but I noticed I've never even taken that adhesive off. We'll ballast both of these guys, but this little guy worked perfect for their key fob, so I was happy with that. The reason I was an idiot for buying that is because I turned around when I realized my mistake, went right back in the store, and walked out with this. And what is this, you ask? This is something that would have had that very 3/16 by 3-inch driver. And this might possibly be their cheapest set of screwdrivers. I believe it or not, I have not researched that. What is their cheapest screwdriver? But these were free. This is one of those things you just show up and you can pick a gift. And I think it was the blue light, which I have a ton of those. I kind of like them. Something else was on the agenda, maybe the little bar clamp thing, or these, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to get those. And somehow I forgot, and had I have not forgotten, I would have had this, and I presumably would have used this driver right here to do the key fob and didn't need to buy that one. However, you know, what's done is done, and I could have totally returned it. I thought, no, screw it. That's $1.79. And these are free. So, yeah, right there. What do you get? Well, you get Pittsburgh's lifetime warranty. Looks like these boast a magnetic tip. You're going to get slotted 3 drivers. You're going to have a 1/4 by 1.5 inches, so it's going to be like stubby land over here. Then you're going to have 3/16 by 3-inch and a 1/4 by 4-inch. So that's going to be these 2 drivers here, you know, 1 and 2. So 3/16 and quarter. Note the form factor, 3/16, quarter, and then of course you get the quarter stubby. If you're curious, like, okay, that's 3 drivers, what are the other 3? Well, you're going to get a number 2 Phillips by 1.5 inches. That's going to be yours. I wouldn't really call these stubby. I'd call these like a semi-stubby, right? It's going to be way shorter than these 4-inch shanks, but not quite small enough to get into the tightest places, but maybe get you somewhere these don't, and that's all you need to do. I've gotten quite picky on stubbies and short, you know. That's quite the blade length on those. Handle, not terrible, you know, if the tip would like end here, but, you know, is what it is. And these were free, so I really have no room to complain. Just offer constructive criticism, I suppose. So next up, you're going to get a number 1 Phillips by 3-inch. That's going to be this driver right here where my thumb is. And lastly, we get a number 2 Phillips with a 4-inch handle. So if you're curious, if you want to buy these, part number is 62570. I would advise against buying these sets of screwdrivers unless it's like some super cheap, like, you know, gag gift type of a thing. The reason I say that is apparently, you know, if you wait around long enough, you can get them for free. So if you cashed in on that free screwdriver set, let me know. What will I do with these? I have absolutely no clue. I guess testing purposes, we might keep the number 2 Phillips, and everything else is like sacrificial. If we want to melt them with a propane torch, we will melt them with a propane torch. If we want to see how much faster an oxyacetylene torch melts them, we will conduct that experiment as well. The thing is, I have actually found several of these, and I'm not talking about like in the store loose, someone stole the number 2 Phillips and dropped others. I mean like on job sites or just the side of the road. Like this is what I never get like the cool stuff, you know, like some of my suppliers come in and they'll like say, I pulled over, man, and I found a pair of those, what are those ones we talked about? The Knipex? And I'm like, yeah, the Knipex. And he's like, yeah, I found one of those like big ones. And, you know, pull up pictures or, you know, have some like asphalt covered tool there, you know, and you can clean them up, you know, and they're fine, or you can get repair parts in some cases and get them back on the road, or they find stuff from Mac or, you know, giant channel locks or something. This is the stuff I find, right? Which, you know, still you find it, but it's like, do you really want to find it, you know, type of a thing. So if you have small hands, you know, this would be an option. Like if this, which that's a bit smaller of a form factor on this guy than the number 2 Phillips, but this is considerably smaller than this, and this is the longer 4-inch shank, so these would be good there. This is basically just like bare bones, ultra budget. I don't know how many screws this is going to turn before it strips them out if it doesn't strip out the first one type of a budget. I will tell you, you don't have to worry about that if you're using the slotted for something else. Here's your number 1, which is actually an even smaller form factor. It looks like these are kind of scuffed and torn up, handled expertly with care. Again, for a free set, you know, I have no complaints. I'm just trying to highlight this in the event you wanted to buy these. If this was like a gift, you know, like for your kid. Now, if your children, grandkids, niece, nephew, you know, adult children, whatever they may be, if they're terrible people and they don't take care of anything, by all means, save yourself the money and the heartache and get them this. But for everyone else, I would look elsewhere. But if you're in a pinch, and I mean, you just needed something to like arc a starter, you know, or jump across a terminal type of a thing, do this, you know, get this set. I'm sure the thing is dirt cheap. I don't really even care to look it up, but it's free. And again, really the stubbies aren't that bad handle wise. Again, you just sort of got the tips just for the sheer sake of saying we did it. There is the profile on the number 2 Phillips. Again, for all I know, like, I mean, this could be the same tip and they've just kind of like finished it out differently. I would assume this was made in China. You know, it is what it is, I suppose. But, like I said, it was free, and the sad thing is I could have totally used this driver and done what I did with this one, and it would have been free. So that was on me, my mistake. It happens. But, hey, I cannot argue with free, so let's throw down the big Stavilla. They said they were, I guess, ever so slightly. Like, you ain't picking up anything. If it can't pick that up, it's not gonna... Yeah, this is laughable. Here's the real fail test, folks. I've got a paper clip. This is one of those, you know, I've set this up to make Harbor Freight look bad. You know, that's an 18-pound paper clip, right? So it will pick up a paper clip, all right? An 18-pounder at that. But I don't think it's going to hold the screw very well. And most of what I have here is stainless or very, very small. Let's just give it one of the small ones and see. Let me get the number 1 Phillips. Where is that? Over here. Okay. Well, I'll be darned. You know, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's not the strongest hold at all. If you brush into anything, this is coming off. But it is magnetized, so not very well, but it is magnetized. So, yeah, like I said, sort of like a gag gift. You're like on an El Cheapo type of a deal, trying to make it happen. People that you know are going to abuse things and not take care of them type of a thing. It's a viable option, I suppose. Now, for not much more money, you could piece together a set of these, and I do, as cheap as these are, like, and again, I've only used the slotted ones. This one I've kept for testing purposes, so it hasn't done anything. But it is actually not a terrible handle in terms of like comfort and ergonomics. Plus, it's got the hanging hole. So, you know, just some bare bones options for you. But again, for something free, I thought, hey, well, let's get it. And this little guy right here, it's never going to be used by me until we test it. I just noticed that I scuffed this finger, and that's because there is a very, very rough parting line for the mold here. I think you can, don't know if you can see it, but right there, yeah, that's a beauty. It's not the worst. I mean, I could see people actually liking the handles. Again, especially like with small hands or certain tasks or something. So these would not be a terrible file handle. Maybe if you got that for free and wanted to kind of try and hybridize something. But yeah, just wanted to showcase that. Don't want to spend a ton of time on it, because we're going to do 2 more things. One of them, because again, I don't know if I showcase this or not. Oh boy. Remember at the start of the video when I said you might hear something cascade? Well, it did it that time. And it's sad because we're not even concerned about that. But we are concerned about this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because, again, I might have already showcased this. I legitimately can't remember. It's nothing crazy, nothing fancy, but this was recently on a price drop. I think it's been sitting around here for a couple of weeks now. It's just a US General drawer organizer. This isn't a set. This isn't like multiple pieces with different configurations. It's this one. This is what I picked out. I wanted to try it. I thought this would be the most useful for me. Could be debatable. I'm going to kick this back painfully because we're not going to measure it. We're just going to roll with this. And, I don't even know if you can read that. It's really hard for me to. Let's get you back kind of in some semblance of normalcy. You're at a very funky angle, and I do apologize for that, but if we get lucky... Oh, I hate adhesive. Come on. Boy, if anyone was hoping for a great video, you're gonna you're gonna have to wait for the last item or use the timestamps now. I do put them there for your convenience, but just imagine, if you will, that you can see this whole thing panned out, which you basically do now minus the edges. Overall dimensions, which is sadly torn now, 21 7/8. That's probably what that said. Long, so end to end, basically just shy of 22. Wide, it's going to be 10 1/4. So basically what you see here, if you wanted to put a 12-inch extension here, you're going to have to try it diagonally, and it's probably not going to fit, but, you know, stubby, 2, 4, 6, 8, you know, maybe even a 10-inch you could wedge in there. The height, in case you're concerned or have shallow drawers, is going to be 1 9/16 high. So you've got one extra large bin, which I'm not sure how you have one extra large bin. It seems to me like this is even, and then the 2 outboards are even, but okay, we'll just run with what they say. One extra large bin, 9.5 long by 4 1/16 wide. You've got 3 large bins, which is going to be 9.5 long by 3 1/8 wide. So is one of these slight? I don't know what they're doing. It would bother me if that's not symmetrical, but it is what it is. Speaking of not symmetrical, note this one is obvious. You've got 3 here and 4 here. Obviously 3 is going to have more surface area. 4 is going to offer you more compartments. So the medium bins, you've got 3-inch long by 3 1/8 wide, and the small bins, you've got 2 1/8 long by 3 1/8 wide. So same width here, 3, 6, 9. Whereas over here, your 9 inches are going to be conducted with 2 1/8 plus the dead space. So 2, 4, 6, 8. 4/8 is going to be half. That's 8.5. Add in these side walls at roughly 0.33, and you've got your same 9 inches, I suppose. So yeah, that's the layout. Oh geez, where is the Stanley? I guess it really doesn't matter. We're not going to waste time. But apparently they think one of these bins is a little bit wider on the end. So what did I buy this for? Well, I kind of wanted to try it out. I'm not totally opposed to this layout. If you come in and you think of ratchets and extensions, you know, like 1/4 3/8, or, you know, anything like that is sort of feasible. Same like with like some random wrenches, maybe AN stuff or specialty like flare nut wrenches and, you know, some fittings. What I really had in mind for it was electrical stuff, not gonna lie. So I was thinking like tape caddies, if you can fit this in the drawer and still stack the tape. I currently do that with an Ernst 3-inch, and the tape actually does stand up in the containers, like the Scotch ones. Let me try not to knock more stuff off. But something like that, you know, the tape actually does clear in that top drawer. So picture that, you know, maybe some Teflon tape and air fittings, maybe some electrical tape, and you keep, you know, 3 sizes of terminals or butt connectors. Maybe you've got some switches. This just, to me, seems best suited for small parts, you know, like electrical stuff, maybe like some small hardware. Maybe there's something you assemble, you know, and sell type of a deal, and you're going to use this as like a little caddy where you're going to divide your hardware. If you have the real estate, something like this would kind of be cool. Just when you bring in, say, a toolbox or a roll cart, you just throw in and divide your hardware, and then you just pull it as you need it type of a deal. If you were only using this half and then you kept that half open for something along those lines. If you wanted to subdivide a bunch of bits, personally, I'd recommend like just a bit organizer. But if you just, you know, you use number 2 Phillips T15 and T25, just throw them in there, you know, and you got your stash. All right. Impact extensions, nut setters. The sky's really kind of the limit. I don't know if I'm going to take the time to populate this and like give you fictional scenarios. We might just wait until we do like a toolbox tour and it's like, oh yeah, there's that thing. But, there's also a chance I'll hate it, so I'm not 100% sure, but I don't remember the price on it. These aren't very expensive, and again, it was one of those deals, the price was lowered, and I think the chick that day, I think she like scanned my 20% in on like everything somehow, so sometimes I get lucky like that. So this thing was like stupid cheap. If we don't like it, it's not the end of the world, but I did think this was kind of a neat layout. So for some of you OCD people, like you need 3 and 3 or 4 and 4, and it's going to drive you berserk. But this is what it is. Also, in that electrical drawer, I actually do keep like a bunch of box cutters and razor knives. Stuff like that would fit well. Maybe you could put some files. I mean, just, it really depends what you need to organize. But I do think this isn't a terrible layout here. So, yeah, that is that. Again, have we covered it before? I honestly can't remember, and I just wanted to cover my bases. And it's easier for me to do that from out here. Now, that star of the show that we mentioned. This thing, I actually still have the receipt even, so it was there in the sack. This was a recent price reduction, and then I put a coupon on top of it, so we like walked out the door with these for basically $12. I think the price is either $17.99 or the current price reduction makes them $17.99, and that stuff is usually temporary. Sometimes they stay down, sometimes they go back up, but it is from Doyle. I don't know that we have anything from Doyle, as odd as that may seem, but freakishly enough, if you kind of go around and watch other people's tool hauls or reviews or anything, it's very rare that people say anything negative about Doyle. They usually come away as fans. And that's interesting for the main reason it's sort of like the mid-tier, right? It's not like the top of the line. It's not the cheapest thing. And people are like, oh yeah, those are pretty good. In this case of item number 56747, we've got some 8-inch fast adjust water pump pliers. And you're thinking like, okay, why on earth did you buy these? Well, number one, the price reduction. Number two, curiosity. Like, we can totally get by without these, but if I'm not mistaken, these look an awful lot like the pliers that you see Matco pushing, and I think Mac even now has something that looks eerily similar. And when things aren't coming out of America and they're coming out of Taiwan, there's only so many places that are going to make them. And if you can pick this up with, where does it say? Right down here. Lifetime guarantee in the bottom corner, and you're closer to a Harbor Freight, or your dealers suck or are non-existent or aren't dependable, this is just as viable of an option for you to try. Again, I would not advise that against something that was like reputable and actually made and manufactured in America, but for something overseas, if you can get this for 12 bucks, why would you pay an extra $50 to have the same thing that just says Matco? Now, if the color's a big deal to you, I'll give you that. If you know, maybe your driver's great, super nice, he's your best friend, you get pizzas Friday night, yeah, maybe spend a little bit more. But for the average person, especially if you can't get like your color, you know, like if they don't have these in blue, for example, I'm not going to go out and spend an extra 50 bucks to get them in purple. Like, maroon is fine. Okay, so but that's really kind of it, because this does look eerily similar to what you can get off of the tool trucks. I went with this size. I kind of would have picked this anyway, just because it's a little bit more compact than the larger ones. But if you wind up liking these, you can actually come in and you can get like a full complement of set. I think there's probably 3 of them in various sizes. It could be more. Again, I haven't spent much time investigating the Doyle line, so typically, and I'll tell you right now, as much as people hate to hear, like, the Icon pliers have actually been really good. So, and I also typically get those for less money than the Doyle stuff, which is kind of crazy, but 20% off hand tool thing, you know, comes in pretty handy. So looking at their specs and their selling points here, let's pan down so you can see it. Spring-loaded push-button design allows for fast and easy adjustments and a secure fit. So again, Knipex-inspired type of stuff here. 1 1/2 inch jaw capacity, which is kind of crazy to think that an 8-inch tool can only go to 1 1/2 inches. When in my pocket I've got a set of Cobra XS's, not the 5-inch, but the XS smooth-handled ones, that'll go to 3/4 of an inch. So they're tiny, they're 5 inches long, and they go to 3/4. This is an 8-inch tool, and it goes double that. Again, kind of interesting. V-jaw design, which is slightly different, provides multiple points of contacts for stronger grip. They've got right angle induction hardened teeth for stronger grip and longer life. And I will tell you, just looking through this packaging, the teeth actually look good. Now, when you feel them, when you use them, when you run it over a piece of conduit or pipe, maybe they round off, maybe they grind down, I don't know. But initially, just looking at it through the packaging, it looks like they were done quite well. And again, that's just a visual assessment through the plastic. But coming in next, you got high-strength steel construction for superior durability. Rust protection reduces corrosion and increases tool life. Self-locking mechanism for one-handed operation. Again, on the front, I think they'll just kind of showcase that right there. They've got V-jaws, the 1.5 inch. There you can kind of see it closed around a bolt. Please don't use that on a bolt. You know, like, same thing with Knipex. And you're like, I get it, the Cobras will grab it. If that bolt doesn't necessitate, you know, the leverage of a 10-inch pair of Cobras or this, if you've got a socket or a wrench, use that. It's the appropriate tool for the job. Nuts and bolts were not made to be removed with pliers. You know, you're going to mar that head up, chew it up, it's going to look terrible, and the next person that has to use this, if they know who you are, they're going to think, man, Dave's an idiot. I totally get it in a pinch, side of the road, this is all you got. If it's like a seized bolt and, you know, your next option is to just turn it into a liquid, hey, you know, come in with your 12-inch pair and see if you can snap the thing free or break the head off or something. But otherwise, like, no. Use something else, right? So, fast push jaw, easy self-lock grip. The thing that I dislike about these is the packaging. Good frickin' lord. It's the packaging. Anything. Again, I don't care. Give me German, Japanese, American. Put anything in this style of a package, and I just cringe, because I know it's going to be a frickin' nightmare. Typically, I've gotten pretty good about telling if they're the ones that will open well, going like through the bottom, you know, kind of like trying to follow the perforated lines, or if I can just basically cut a silhouette around the tool and then manhandle it. And that's what we chose to do here. So, not terrible waste of time, and the handles came out unscathed. That's a weird kick out. It's not something I noticed in the packaging. Like, there's a very pronounced and sharp bend right here that I don't understand. I don't know if they think that's not an ergonomic thing, at least not for me. If I hold it down here, I don't have to deal with it. But it's right where this twin beam consolidates into the main leg or handle, if you will. I don't like that, and I think I would like it even less barehanded. It does kind of direct your thumb up, but I would prefer if this was a more like uniform joint. You know, I don't know if like this was the pour was bad, or, you know, the cast, who knows. This is almost, I know it's not welded, but it's almost like if you had a jig set up and it had kind of like shifted down and the guy welded it, and then it was like, I'll screw it, I'll just grind it and put a handle over it. I know that's not what happened, but that's like the best way I can explain it. This side's fine. It's like straight, no issue at all. But here, I don't care for that kick out. So I don't see what that's bringing to me. I would be happier, honestly, if I could put the kick out over here, you know, and kind of like it contours with your fingers. But this is a very, in the package, I guess it was fanned out a little bit more. Is that what it was? I guess not. Let's get that up there. Very minimalistically, it was fanned out. I mean, I'm talking like 1/8 of an inch or something. But I don't really like that. That's too close together. Now, again, just like I said with these, if like everything's too big for you and you love this, you've got small hands, or it's for someone with small hands, these might be pretty dadgum cool. But for me, I'm not a huge fan of this form factor. Again, nothing to do with the tool yet. Just, you've got to hold it, you've got to use it. In the closed position, which, I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of real estate we have access to. I'm not digging that kick out at all. So, it is what it is. But coming in, let's check this out before we get too crazy. It's actually fairly smooth and easy to articulate. Again, we've never played with these because they were wrapped up in idiotic amounts of plastic. But yeah, so this right here would be your 1.5 inch. Again, right there, it's going to become even more pronounced. So you got to understand, like, these are good gloves. They're mainly just for video purposes because they're clean, right? So what I'm saying there is this pad is fully intact. This isn't like a pair that I use all the time and it's filthy and the pad's worn down any. No. It's there, and I'm not a fan of that kick out. I don't quite understand what they're doing with the dog leg on that, but aesthetically, like, this isn't a bad looking pair of pliers. I mean, I kind of dig that. It's just a little something extra, right? It feels pretty robust there. If you had, maybe you're redoing like an airline, or you got like some iron pipe and you're making shells because your wife thought it would be cool because she saw it on Pinterest or something like that, hey, you know, these are an option. But pretty easy to adjust. It does not have a finite adjustment, but it's not terrible either. Coming in, I think I'm going to pause this because we're about to time the card out. And we're back, but coming in, looking at the jaws themselves, they do look to be decently done. Again, this is visual inspection only. I want you to keep that in mind. They're very well oiled. And about not to be when I absorb it with my skin. But that's a little smoother than I would think it would be based on how aggressive the teeth looked, which is not a good thing. That's probably the most aggressive point, is right there. I don't know that these are going to be the best pliers in the world, but again, for basically $12, throw this, like in your road bag type of a thing, and boom, you're kind of home free. Again, I'm not sold on this. I don't quite know what's going on there, but should have grabbed some Knipex or something to showcase you. They're not a direct comparison. I don't want to give you that idea, but that's what bothers me. In terms of comfort, I'm not a huge fan anymore of like this traditional channel lock style of dip. Sometimes the double dipped ones don't bother me. This is quite thin and small. I've gotten to where I prefer like 2-component wide fat stuff. It just feels better in hand, especially when you actually have to bear down on something. But I don't know, these are not terrible. Again, this could be a preference thing. Some of you might like that kick out. I don't know. It does sort of fill the hand a little bit more. It's just, I don't like the position of it. I almost feel like we should have just had that integrated in like a one-piece thing that's not awkward. So, ultimately, here's the deal. I know many of you will have had this pair of pliers or in a similar size for a long time now. If you've picked up Doyle's line and you've got these adjustable water pump pliers, how long have you had them? How do you like them? And what are you comparing them to? Are you comparing these to 20-year-old channel locks? Are you comparing these to Knipex? Are you comparing them to Mac or Matco, type of pliers? Again, I don't know for sure. I haven't bothered to research it. I just have seen flyers where especially Matco had these. I think Mac, they're relatively new. And they look eerily similar. Again, that might be by design, but again, those Matco ones, there's only going to be so many people putting these things out. So, what do I want to sacrifice here? I guess this would fit. A little Hex Tech bolt. Again, I would never do this unless I have to. But in terms of a grip, this is very daintily held. I've got the traffic finger and the thumb. That's the bad thumb. And I'm unable to turn it at all, going either direction, which is good. Again, you can see very light pressure. In terms of like side-to-side play, yeah, I can rip it out of there. But in terms of if you were actually using this, heaven forbid, to turn this, to break it free, or to tighten it, that's a pretty good grip on there. So again, it should be, since they're new. Coming out here, kind of simulating this type of a deal. Not the best, but it could be worse. Obviously, my fingers couldn't hold it quite as well. I'm also not death gripping this. It's a little pretty modest, as you can kind of see the flex there. But I don't know, man. For $12, if you're looking for something cheap to take a trial run on, I'm not sure it wouldn't be worth the effort there. So yeah, that again was the star of the show. This was a deal. It was kind of sad. Like, we're almost to Black Friday, and there's not much that really struck my fancy at Harbor Freight, right? Like, I've either got everything, or it's like, yeah, like this is really it. This is the flyer. This is what we get. No huge coupon. I'm kind of one of those guys. I'm at the point where like I just give me the 20 to 25% off and let me pick it, right? Don't put exclusions on it. Let me pick, and I'll go to town that way. Because quite frankly, even if you get like a big sale, it's usually something that's like, I've got it, or I've tried it and don't want it. It's a complete type of a deal. This was one of the things I'd never tried them. So let's real quick, I'll grab a similar sized Knipex Cobra. So I lied. I won't grab a similar size. We'll just grab a 10-inch here. And, also brought along some friends. So I don't know what I last did with a Hazet pair, but I thought, you know what? Push button, let's go to town. I'd like to compare them to the Alligator or the VHA pliers, but the truth of the matter is these are push button from Doyle, so it makes sense to actually stick with push button. Now, on these Ghidorah, which again you can hopefully see there, I'm not sure what I did last with these either, but I do actually really like these. And we'll just go ahead and close them down. Note back here, you kind of have that slight kick, but it's very subtle. There's nothing jarring. It's not like it goes like this and then kicks back in, right? Again, I don't have like an 8-inch to compare that to. The Cobras here, obviously this is a soft jaw pair, but push button, you can see the different design angles and everything at play here. Again, slight subtle kick out, which I don't object to because it's insulated by the handle. And then over here on the Hazet, which is, again, different design, but still, that's kind of more of just a linear thing, right? So in comparison to the Doyle, you're going to see you've got the track that way, so similar profile, obviously much smaller on the 8-inch iteration. The problem is these are very expensive because they're from Hazet. Okay, you can get Cobras if you're patient and you look around. I mean, you can get a Cobra for a really good price. They're also all over the place at this point in time. It's not just like a KC tool thing. You can go local. You can't really use that excuse against Knipex. Like Hazet, no. You're not going to go around and you're not going to find that down the street from Harbor Freight. Okay. Same thing with a Ghidorah. Knipex, you actually will. Now, whether it's an electrical supply house, mom and pop hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you, it's going to be there, right? So you can't really. Ghidorah and Hazet, yeah, you're not, if you're at home, Harbor Freight, you're not going to drive 1.5 miles across town and pick those up. But you can pick these up. So if we close these down, you can kind of, again, bad example because of the soft jaws, but you sort of get the feel for the profile there, right? And just a much more pronounced, again, I know it's 8 versus 10, but I'm trying to kind of line these up as best I can. You can kind of see the difference there. Again, 7-inch Cobras or something, 180s would be similar here. I don't know. I don't anticipate me liking these better, but I want to try them. I want to kind of see what they're all about, kind of know what Matco, again, one thing I will say about Matco, and it is hard for me to say anything nice about Matco, I think they do a decent job picking who they want to manufacture the stuff they're going to put their name on. And, basically, you know, if you've got the world as your seashell, and Ghidorah says, like, screw off, we're not making pliers with your name on them, but then Knipex is like, yeah, you know, if you buy this many, we'll put Matco in whatever color handle you want. Same type of a thing applies. You know, you and I could go and start a business and walk over to Taiwan and say, hey, you know, we want to make these things, but we want yellow handles with, you know, black overmolds, and we want the heads to be, you know, an oven enamel blue, right? And if we're willing to pay, we can do that. We can get our name laser etched, we can have it stamped, we can do a whole litany of options, but they're going to come from the same factory as these, and everyone else is getting them made there, right? Nothing wrong with that, especially if it's a good tool. But it's just a deal where if you can get this and it's the same thing, and this is 1/4 of the price, it's very hard to justify it past color. Now, if these were 15 and Matco was 25, but the Matco, you know, came in your color that tied in and no one else in the shop has it, and you can tell it's yours from a mile away, you can easily justify maybe the $10. But when you're going like, you could buy 4 of these for the same price as getting this with a green handle, that's where you kind of have to step back and be like, yeah, I don't know. And also, for that price, you could also get a standalone plier, you know, from somebody that might make something slightly of higher quality, right? So, like I said, I've never used these. I've never had anything from Doyle, at least that I can remember. And I did want to try them. So, initial bench inspection in terms of like the plier functionality and the jaws, they actually look good. You know, side-to-side play, can I create some? You bet. Are they perfectly flush? They actually are. In the package, it did not look like they were. It looked like you had an extension. I don't know if this was down some. Could have just been down a slot or two, actually, I guess. I didn't pay attention. The packaging is designed to push it, so maybe somebody kind of like jostled the head or the handle. Not a fan of that ergonomically. It's just a little too harsh. I think it's the seam and the joint where the 2 legs kind of come back in and consolidate to the one handle. I feel like if they would have run the overmold up a little bit more, I might not complain about that. But again, for the price, I'm kind of excited to try these things. So won't be replacing my favorites, I don't believe, but who knows, it might, and I will give it a fair shake. So unlike the screwdrivers, I just kind of test that stuff behind the scenes. So now that these are open, as long as I remember that I've got them, I'll make a point to grab them and use them and see what I think. Do they slip? Do they round off? Did the jaws go flat? Were they great? And then on the 4th time I grabbed them to use them, like the jaws folded over, that's what we have to figure out. You can help, again, by leaving your thoughts and opinions if you've got first-hand experience. So, like I said, I wish I had something that compared a little bit better, but right here, this is what I had, so it's what we ran with. And again, I cannot stress enough, like the Knipex stuff, very readily available, and the prices are not that far off. So, you know, if we put Snap-on or Matco on the name, yeah, you're gonna, it's, ooh, Doyle. But, with Knipex especially, there's so many of them, their footprint's growing, and if you're patient for a sale, now, if you buy these MSRP, you know, you're not terribly far off, right? Maybe in the almost double to not quite double. But if you get these with like the 20% off, that's when you kind of have to say like, wow, you know, this was a good bang for the buck type of a deal. So ultimately, again, what I want to know from you, have you used these? What do you think of them? What are you comparing them to? And again, I do actually know several of you have said, hey, you know, those Doyle pliers are legit, and we'll see what we think. So it's going to be very hard. I'm quite set in what I like. I'm loyal once I find something. So I don't know that it will overtake anything, but I'll give them a fair shake, see what we think of them. Same with these little the freebies. You know, we'll go to town there. So I will say though, I legitimately do mean this. If you're on the fence for bargain, I cannot speak for performance, but like if you just want something comfortable, like these handles are not that bad. So I'm not saying they're my favorites. I'm not saying that they're, you know, top 10 or top 20, but like for the price point, like they're not terrible, surprisingly. So you would think something in the bottom bargain bin would be terrible. I don't know. I could see some people really liking that. Same thing with this. I think you'd have to have small hands to really like it, and even then you could come in and nitpick the finish. Like that is just a jagged freaking edge. You almost would need to file this stuff. Especially like if you were giving these to kids as a starter set, or, you know, kid goes off to college and you're like, hey, you're going to get some trash furniture you need to assemble. Realistically, I would give a child something better. It's, you know, it's worth a thought. You know, it's like I said, you just might want to hand inspect these and kind of deburr them a little bit, clean them up, you know, so they don't like run shards of plastic into their hands. But yeah, that's it, man. We had a unfortunate experience here with the key fob, which led me to buy this, which I didn't need to do because I could have gotten that for free. But we came out with the Doyles, which is what I wanted to use. Again, lower price and a coupon, it worked out. So I will quit rambling. I'm going to check that battery, see how it's doing. You won't see this for a really long time, but I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Maybe, who knows, maybe it'll release before Thanksgiving 24 and be applicable. But yeah, sadly, this is Thanksgiving 23 when these were on sale, so there we are. But yeah, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, you subscribe, you ring that bell, you grab a complete set of Doyle pliers, chuck them from the window of your Charger as you're jumping across the creek. YouTube just might notify you. I've got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. And with that said, I do hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the show. You know what? I did have a pair of smaller Cobras over there. So if you're wondering where they are, boom, snake in the grass. All right. The biggest difference here is going to be the slimmer head. That might seem like a minor thing. You might think, oh, this is going to be stronger. This gets in places this one will not go, right? It's going to depend on what you're doing. It may never be an issue. It could be an issue every single time. Might be an issue some of the time. Very similar design. Again, I want to highlight this. Knipex, again, obviously very similar design, right? You've got the split beam to go around. But as we come in here, it's just integral to the handle, right? That union between... We've got a straight solid piece of steel conjoining with that. Well, right here, there's that kick. And you can see, like, lining them up. This is a 180 on the Cobra, and then, of course, they call these 8s on the Doyle. Check that out. The other big thing, I guess, comparison-wise, is going to be this. So, Knipex is a bit smoother opening up. I'd say that's very, very close, right? In terms of the jaw attack points, you can see this was likely inspired by the Cobra. It follows that same symmetry. That's way, you know how I told you, like, well, it's surprisingly smooth. This was the most aggressive, I thought. These are cut at it's either better material or just better, you know, finish out. This is a much more aggressive jaw. Again, that's just running your fingers across. I don't even feel that really. The Knipex is going to hold tighter. I can just tell you based on that. And this pair has not seen much use, I don't believe. I'm usually using the 10s or something. But I think for the price, you could try these easily. This has merits. The thing that's weird with Knipex, this 180, you're going to pay more for that oftentimes than you can get the 10 inches. So while you think, oh yeah, 10's great, more leverage, well, there will be times where that 10 will be cumbersome and will prevent you from going in somewhere lengthwise. It might be the handle, or it just makes it such a ridiculous impediment that something shorter would be necessitated. So keep that in mind. But yeah, just a little bonus action for you of similar sized Cobra to a similar sized Doyle. I think the real difference, again, if you were here, I don't think anyone's going to argue this, it's the jaw profile. Don't believe me? Go get a pair of Doyles, get a pair of Cobras. New, of course, for a fair comparison. And it is much more aggressive teeth cut on the Cobras, which you're going to see whenever you grab onto anything. So that's it. We won't go on too much more. I just wanted to take the time to for sure showcase that, since I did have them sitting there. And I'll catch you back here for more from the shop. You know what? You get more bonus content in this video. So sitting here trying to make a thumbnail, you know, I was trying to figure out how to fit everything in, which is really hard to do. I told you, like, this is the type of thing that I find, and I want to grab this particular driver. Again, this was a 6-piece set. You got stubby 1 and 2. You've got Phillips 1 and 2 for 3/4. You've got slotted 5, and you've got slotted 6. I bring that up. Why? Pay attention to this driver. Chugging in, we have this driver. If these look similar, it should, because this is the same driver. It's just this one is really, really dirty. Again, this is one that I found. So if you ever question, like, how you didn't find these junk, yeah, I do. That's why I tell you the stories. So yeah, but if you're curious how this ages, you know, like, keep in mind, I found this. It was outside. I kind of think that's fence stain on this one. Don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty confident that's what that is. And then I think also rust. So there's the tip. Again, we could probably hit it with some ballast. We'll bring her back. But I don't know if anyone cares to see that. So anyway, yeah, there you go. So a little bit more bonus content for you. And you get a quick visual of what you could do with screwdrivers in this drawer.